What's up, people? Welcome to another episode of Talking Reacher. My name is Adam Bale. I'm a senior editor over at thecoalition.com. And
I am Lawrence, aka a punk with toys on all the social medias. If you want to hear more of me,
there you go. Well, they want you or not, you are here. This is it. This is the other show. He's my co-host. We are covering Reacher, as you guys know. Thanks again. Quick housekeeping. Thanks again. We're seeing a lot of interest in this show on all platforms. That's great. People are tuning in. People sticking around. They're hearing us give our takes and recap of the show Reacher Season 3. And that's fantastic. So we appreciate it. We appreciate the follows, the likes, whether on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, all of it. Thank you. Big shout out to all of you. Big shout out also to Sarcasm. Someone who left a comment over on Spotify. Noticed a little audio issue in one of the episodes. Took the time. I figured it out. It was a games meter I was messing with. Screwed it up. Fixed it up. We're all good. So thanks again for that. And let me see. Anything else?
Yeah, and thank you guys all for watching. Our last episode, we're approaching 3,000. At the time we're just recording, about 3,000 views. But what we do need from you guys is some comments. Some likes. Tell us what you like. What did we miss? Anything? Did you catch something that we didn't? We want to. We need the interaction so we can know maybe if we're missing something. Maybe we need to cover something a little bit more. That. Then again, we're not going to catch everything. We're just like you, just viewers.
Exactly. And then just like you guys, there's certain things that happen in an episode that just like pop. And it's like, oh, wait, this is what I'm really thinking about. There could have been some little side conversations that happened, but no, we want to talk about the big stuff.
Yeah, and again, always something happening. And again, there will be spoilers in this. So if you haven't watched, episode 5 now, please go and watch it. And just like what Adam was just saying here, some things will just pop. Like what happens in this where they take some of the bodies and the first thing Adam says, he didn't swim across that. Water came up, the swimming came up, and I'm going to reel him back before we even get started.
It's a trigger. It's a trigger for me. And when we get to that point, I'll explain why I brought it up again, because it just, oh man, you just got to detach yourself from reality because there's no possible way he did this. No, anyway, so here we are. This is Reacher Season 3, Episode 5, titled Smackdown. Oh, man. Like you mentioned, we're going to spoil it, review just for you first-timers, but here we go. So we begin where we left off. Reacher is en route to go help Duffy and Billy. They're over at a warehouse. We know that Beck's been tracking them because they have Angel's laptop. So once he gets there, there's already a shootout. We got 3 goons in there, right?
But remember, he's on the way there, and he can't get a hold of him because there's no cell service. So Reacher calls Elliot, and he's like, they're on to him. You got to get a hold of him. And the phone keeps ringing, and Billy, who, he's an older man, so he has some issues with his bladder. And there's Susan is kind of just waiting and waiting, but the phone keeps ringing, and it's driving her nuts, but she also realizes that this is an industrial place. Like, people that they're working with know their hours they won't keep. So she finally answers it. It's Elliot saying, get out of there. And of course, as soon as she answers it, bullets start flying.
And not only that, and one of the things I brought up when we saw that part, most businesses would have a voicemail kick in after like the 3rd or 4th ring. So the fact that it kept ringing, it would have been great if it stopped ringing for a while, just give that pause of like, oh, it went to a voicemail and then kicks back in.
I noticed that too, because she alluded to that, if I remember correctly,
that they would know the hours. Anyone that dealt business
so
with
someone kept calling, but you're right, there was no like break, and I would have went to right to voice. Well, not always. I fix coffee machines, and a lot of times I call, and it'll just ring and ring and ring. So.
And who knows? It's all a front anyway. So maybe they don't even think about it. They're like, oh, we're not going to set up voicemail. So it's amazing they even have a phone. You would think in a shady operation, you don't want any trace. You don't want a bill or anything pointing. You want to keep this warehouse off the grid, very Sons of Anarchy style, if you remember that show.
But these are all legit businesses, remember?
Yeah, but there were some warehouses because that's what she was doing. She was tracking their storage location. So yeah, the Bazaar is a legit business, but we don't know if all these were. But see, there we go. We're just drifting off again. It doesn't even matter at this point, because then while he's telling him all this, Stephen is telling Duffy this. Next, the guys that we saw from the end of the last episode, They come in, and here we go. There's a shootout. They know what's going on.
Yeah. So the shooting starts, and of course, again, time has no relevance in this show. Reacher shows up. He's now inside, and of course, he gets behind one of the guys, one of the bad guys. He sees him. He kind of does this. The bad guy does this. As soon as he turns around, Reacher shoots him. Now, no one says anything about the bullet shot, like the bullet. Like, no one hears the gunshot. No one says, like, hey, someone else shot. No more,
Well, here's the other thing. How does that guy know Reacher? We've never seen them interact, right? I don't remember ever seeing him interact. How does he know that this guy that just showed up, unless he's just assuming, oh, well, Bex is sending backup, and this big mountain of a man that just showed up has to be my backup. How do you know? I don't know. But it was funny too. He's giving him the signal, like, "Hey, they're over here," and then he looks away, and then pop right in the head.
Maybe they just assume federal agents don't get to be that big.
I guess, right? It was like, oh. Plus, he's not pointing a gun at him, so he's like, oh, he must be a friendly. So there we go. No, and it was good. They get through the shootout. There's only 3 guys in there, but then eventually Reacher gets over to Duffy, pulls her aside, says, "Hey."
Susan shoots one and drops her badge. So she drops her badge. Like you said, Reacher grabs her and says, we can't kill the last one. It's going to seem weird again if I'm the only one that survives. But she's correct.
Explains, hey, they're tracking through the laptop. Just give Phil's a run on everything that we know about the laptop tracking. Just head out there. So he covers, he throws a bunch of loose shots, saying, oh, they're running this way. They escape. He goes to the back. He gets the car. He gets Harley, right? That's the last goon.
Harley's the last guy.
Last goon. Tells him, jump in the car. We're going to go after him. Purposely drives into a ditch, grinding into the ditch.
Let's talk about some things, because we both point. So he says, hey, I'm gonna make sure you guys get away. He jumps up on top of this. This guy's a mountain of a man, and he just starts firing. And yet, Harley does not see the shadow. But somehow, after he does that, he's able to get down, not make any noise, get in the car, and then come flying around as Harley's coming out at the perfect time.
Like you said, we can't count time. It does not apply here. Yeah, I mean, the amount of time to get around.
Bothers you. Time bothers me.
Right? Well, it makes sense. It's a good thing they don't have. Good thing this isn't 24. Remember 24?
Oh, I didn't start watching 24 at the beginning. I started watching it later, and oh my gosh, I'm sorry. There's a lot that happened in 24 hours.
There was a lot, and I did watch that, and I remember they were always keeping track of the time. So it must have been even harder for production, because then you're trying to film things, and then with the light, and it's like, what if something takes too long to film? Next, you lost your light. It's like it's supposed to be 4:00. Now it's like 7. It's pitch black. But we get sidetracked. See, there's a lot going on in this. People.
He never ate. He never went to the bathroom.
Yeah. Oh, the same thing like Reacher.
Well, he's in the bathroom a lot, it seems.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's how he makes his calls. He gets his calls.
Yes.
So anyway, once he gets out, though, because he tells Harley to go get out and get him out the ditch. But then the camera pans out, and we see that the laptop is there on the ground. So, Duffy chucked it. There we go. All right. That segment, that's gone. The big part. Holy moly. R.I.P. Stephen. Here we go. So we talked about it. We were trying to figure out. They kept referring to him multiple times by different things as Shadow, right? Because he was Richard's bodyguard.
Wait, quickly. Let's not. There's a part where Susan and Billy get to a place, and there's a really dumb story. There's no reason for this story whatsoever.
Yeah,
about this 4-year-old kid. This 4-year-old kid that went missing, and it turns out he shows up 9 months later. Everyone assumed he was dead, and it was just some old guy that thought that that has Alzheimer's, thought that it was his grandson, and she can still remember the order of the ice cream and the Diet Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
The whole story is about. It goes back to Teresa, the informant that's missing. That there can still be. That we can still have hope. There's still good stories out there. And I'm like. This was a waste. I didn't need to hear this, especially with I don't know if it's a fake accent or not, but it's really starting to annoy me.
we know it's pointless because she just explained her whole guilt about this in the last episode about why she needs to do this. So why are you digging up another little story? This could have been cut. This part was not needed, which is why I was like, so what? Okay.
Now, the one thing that Harley does say when he's talking to Reacher on the way back is that, I know these weren't one of their guys, one of our, one of McCabe's guys, because he doesn't hire girls, and one was a girl and a guy. The government, he is convinced that this is a government, government issued vehicle. And, well, I mean, you just got to look at it. You can figure that out. Yeah. So, the whole story bothered me.
Yeah, that whole thing, it was like filler in a way, because we have not met Teresa. We don't know anything about Teresa. So there's no connection from the audience to care about Teresa. We only know that Duffy cares a lot. Hell, even Billy doesn't really care.
You're absolutely correct, because I'm looking at Richard and I feel for Richard. Like, this is a kid that we've seen his emotions. No matter what his dad's done, him getting his ear cut off because of his dad's dealings, he still cares about his dad. And if Richard was to die at the end of this, I would there'd be an emotional response for me, because we've watched this kid Reacher's try taking care of him. But you're right, Teresa, there's nothing there. We haven't even seen her. We haven't heard a voice. Not like we heard her on the other side. Haven't seen a. Well, I think we saw
a picture. We got a picture because of the hoop earrings. Remember that was.
But all we know is that she was a junkie and that she's stupid. Like, that's literally what Susan says about it.
That was her wording. Yeah, she was like, and she was pretty much like blackmailing her in a way. It's like, hey, you don't do this, you're going to jail.
So they end up at the house. Reacher and Paulie kind of have you're starting to see tension between the two of them. Shocker, right? Those are the two that are going to fight eventually. But then they have to get rid of the two dead bodies. They brought them back, and this is where we find out this is where they dump the bodies.
Well, here's the other part that they didn't. Fine, we didn't see it on camera. We don't need to see everything on camera. But the fact that they were even going to take off, it would have been nice if you like, you know what? Well, we're in a ditch. We can't take off. We have to go clean up inside. Because at first it threw me off. I'm like, I see him carrying a body. And it's like, oh, okay. That's right. You said that. These are the guys from the warehouse.
Yeah. Now, I did like this part. It may have gone on a little too long, but this has an explanation of where they're able to dump the bodies, and the current takes them out to sea, and there's almost no way of them being found. But at the same time, when Reacher and Harley are talking, Harley is talking about when he threw a man over that was still alive, broke his back. The guy was begging for him just to kill him. And when Reacher asked what he did, he said, I let him drown. So you already know that Reacher is going to somehow probably kill this guy in a pretty violent way and probably let him suffer. Just like he did before,
Yeah. And it also makes you wonder at first when Harley was giving this whole story of all his other dumpings, I was like, oh, this is when he's going to bring up Teresa. Oh, I brought this one girl here. She was crying up a storm. That's what I was expecting, because then that closes that chapter. Now we know what happened. But no, see, he talks about some other dude.
I don't think that chapter is going to close till the end.
Yeah.
I mean, we only have 3 episodes left, so I guess.
Yeah, exactly, right? Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy?
Right?
So wild. But man, and then I'm not going to harp on this. I promise I'm not going to harp on this. But they, as Harley talked about it, rough current. They do a nice wide angle shot, beautiful. And you know what I don't see? I don't see land. I'm sorry. I don't care. Maybe it was the angle. Maybe land was always to the right. I don't see it. I just see this rough current. There's no way he swam that to the mainland. I'm sorry.
They are on an island, so maybe he went off on the other side.
Oh, yeah, that's it. I mean, we have to give it the benefit of the doubt, right? That's it. We have to give it the benefit of the doubt.
The other thing that's kind of bothering me is that he calls Duffy a lot. I mean, forget he's not supposed to have a cell phone. He gets away to call Duffy an awful lot, man. I've had girlfriends that I've talked to less than then he talks to Duffy. And here again, he kind of breaks away. He calls her from the barn. And then we see Beck come out and start calling for him. And he comes from behind the bushes saying that he had to take a piss.
I got 9 bathrooms in the house. He was like, I was already outside.
And at this point, you see how big this house really is. You see how much property he has. And I'm just like, yeah. But again, like, how many times can you sneak away? Well, the guy's got like 3 people on staff, it seems.
Well, That and also these goons, the three goons that we just were introduced to, two dead, one alive. We didn't see them at all in the prior episodes.
Yeah.
Right? They were never shown like, oh yeah, I got some other hired guys. Duke never mentioned it because if that's the case, why didn't Duke bring them on other trips? For any. So again, we just got to just push that aside because then he says, Beck says, hey, well, we got to get in the house. McCabe sent over 2 more guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, this interaction I like.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a question I'm going to have for you because I don't think it gets answered on this. So, Reacher walks inside. He sees the goons. He sits down. He asks for coffee. Maid gives this whole little story about the coffee beans, how it comes in the cat's poop and all that stuff. It adds flavor. And then one of the goons, the bald, what was his name? I don't even think he got his name. There was a white one and there was a black guy, but the bald guy starts making it. I don't know if we got his name, but he was making some really inappropriate comments toward the maid. And the first, the way Reacher responded with his remark, I thought that was in his inner voice, in his head, because the way the camera zoomed in, and then I thought maybe they'll zoom out, and it was like she said nothing because she said something in French, and the guy was like, "What you say?" And then he said something. Oh, it's about your mother. So
because he asked like, "Where does the milk come from?" or something. He said, "From your mother," because she's as big as a cow.
Mm-hmm. So he gets up to confront her, to punch Reacher, and then Reacher, what was it? He kicks his ankle or his kneecap?
He kicks his ankle and then grabs his head and smashes in the table, and the guy's just out.
So that's the question. Is he out or is he dead? Because we never see him again.
No, we do.
We do?
Yeah, he's at the end.
All right, maybe that's the part I missed.
But then the other guy, he looks at him and he says something like,
I'm a diabetic.
Yeah, I'm a diabetic.
Right? He's like,
I thought was such a good line where this guy's like, whoa, I'm good. Like, all right, we're here to take control here, but also let's not cross this guy.
And then Reacher goes back to his room. He's hiding his, his stuff because he's washing up, so he wants to make sure he doesn't.
And he has to hide the badge.
Yep, and the badge because he finds the badge, because that was Duffy's badge, and he hears someone at the door, and it's a plate. The maid made him a meal.
Yep,
which is great. So she's his friend. Yay! Oh man.
I wrote something down. I can't read. Oh yeah.
Oh, I would.
All right. So now we go to the cabin. Now we go to the cabin.
This is the part. This is the turning point.
This is where the bodyguard is just begging for a cigarette. He's trying to get him to take the cuffs off. Hey, come on. I've been here for a few days now. I haven't tried to hurt you. Come on, man. We're like friends now. He talks about how bad his wrists are, that they haven't hurt that bad since he found his uncle's adult magazines years ago.
Yeah, but there's still holes in this because if you've been tied to this chair, if you've been tied to this chair for days, how are you going to the bathroom? What that doesn't make any sense. That part didn't make any sense.
But everything, and now all the parts of the cabin with the bodyguard have kind of been sporadic. So there's some things that you may not have picked up on. So the bodyguard, he cuts his head in the back, forcing him to come in and actually fix it. He brings out rubbing alcohol. Now, rubbing alcohol is flammable. I don't know if this was his plan all along, but the rubbing alcohol is sitting there, and unfortunately, Elliot does not cover it up. And
so you see, I see what you're saying when you're bringing all this up, but then it's like, did this happen again? We got to put time aside because how long did he keep that in his mouth? Like when did he able to lean over, get some of it?
They show that all. When he finally convinces him to give him a cigarette.
Oh, yes. That's right.
He goes down, he drinks it, he puts it down. Now, I don't know. I've never tried to do that. I've never drank in my life, so I don't know if that's something. But I would assume that if I tried to drink pop like this, and then I put the bottle down, it'd probably all go back down because you can't really close your mouth. But anyway, he ends up with alcohol in his mouth, and when Elliot goes to light up the cigarette, he blows it out like a wrestler that would blind.
Yeah, it sends a fireball into poor Steven's face.
And I'm sorry, That's just not enough. That shouldn't be enough to completely like blind you. Maybe surprise you, but you would think that these agents would have a little bit more
I don't know. The way they portrayed,
self-defense.
you get it, but the way they portrayed Steven is very green with
Yes.
everything. It's like, how did you even get this far? I don't know. I've always assumed in my head, if you're going to go into some of the higher departments of law enforcement, you have to start at the beginning. I don't see someone coming right out of the academy and it's like, all right, you're a DA agent and you're now part of this special unit. And
you know what? If you ever watched Criminal Minds, you see the one really skinny guy. I can't think of his name. My daughter's always watching it. Like
hey, people, if you know you're in law enforcement, please comment.
Yeah.
Let us know. Correct us on this. Is this a process?
But anyway, this is what happens. We're going to digress and we're going to go off these tangents, especially with me.
That's what we do. That's it.
But he blows the fireball. He smashes him. He's still got his hands, tied to this chair. And then as Steven goes down, he kicks him in the head, and he continues to curb stomp him over and over and over. Not as bad as American History X, if you've ever seen it. But
this was even worse because it's in front. Like he's just stomping on his face.
And they make it pretty clear that he ends his life. Yeah,
it's over.
Because it's you can actually hear like the crunching. It's, I don't want to say overkill because this is a guy that's trying to escape, and clearly he is he's a killer.
No, and that was my whole thing when we talked about him before, is that he makes it seem like, hey, I'm just a guy that was hired to watch this. It was like, no. From what we've seen from all the other people that work with Beck and all of them, they're all have shady backgrounds. They're all bad dudes, all of them. Because after he stomped them the first few times, he could have just left it alone.
Yeah,
Steven's not going to get up.
But it was established that Beck, he's not a bodyguard for
No. Yeah, he's with McCabe's. He's one of McCabe's. He's to watch.
Guy to make sure that he doesn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he leaves. Well, I don't know what you do. I mean, Elliot's gone. Yeah. Elliot's gone. He's not coming back.
R.I.P. Elliot. So sad. So sad. So then there's a bunch of parts that we could just.
Susan pulls up, sees the door open, runs in, and obviously freaks out. And she calls Reacher, which is a no-no. And thank God he wasn't walking around and his shoe didn't just start ringing.
Oh, man.
But he's brushing his teeth. And I'm glad that they don't let the brush and the teeth go away. That's the one thing. It's like, I'm glad. Hey, this guy brushes his teeth. He's made it a purpose. But
the novels, that was a big thing, too. I remember lots of times, like, while brushing his teeth in the bathroom, it was always brought up. He's not in just his hotel. He's brushing his teeth a lot.
Well, he probably doesn't get to the dentist too often. So, you want to make sure that,
That's true.
You got nice teeth. He goes running for it and slides across on his knees. I'm like, I don't know why you have to go, slide like that. But anyway, he's like, if you're calling me, it must be important. She tells the whole story. Hey, you know what? He got away. And then, of course, he's able to figure out, how much of a head start does he have? She checks Elliot's watch. She can see when it spiked and when his heartbeat stopped, which is actually pretty smart. So now, of course, Reacher, who is a
mathematician, he's fantastic with numbers. He pulls the Sherlock Holmes. This is what I call his Sherlock Holmes moment, because all of a sudden he automatically knows, all right, I have X amount of time. We have to do this. All right, what's the plan? It's up to you. Go get Billy. I need him for this operation. Like, he already has this backup plan, or this whole operation set in motion. Like, you just found out seconds ago that you have to make these decisions. That, hey, he's Reacher. So
that he knows that the bodyguard can't know his number, because how many numbers do you remember? Yep. Mm-hmm. I don't know, dude. If I'm working for a killer, I'm probably going to try and remember that phone number. So if I ever need to contact them, what do I know?
We also don't know how long he's been working for him. Yeah. What if it's been a few years he's been working this kid and doing this?
So he calls Billy up. He says, I need you to detour here. Now, again, some time issues. How is Billy able to get there faster than this other guy? Because Billy and Susan were just together.
Yeah, they were, and that's again, we don't know distance. And this was always an issue. We don't know how far from point A to point B. So yeah, all right. So they're at this location where she found the body, but then how far is that mansion? We know the mansion is far because they have to take that bridge.
New time issue. Because during this whole thing, they have to create a plan. He calls Billy, tells what's going to happen. Susan has to go there and shoot the power. So why is she able to get there faster?
Well, we have to assume that the power was further away from the compound, that maybe it was closer toward town, because that's what Reacher says. It was like, oh, the whole county lost power. So that's what I'm assuming.
Okay, I missed that then.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that that's where she went. She had to still look that up, though, right? Where's the main power fuse for that location? You have to know. That takes time. That's research. I don't know. She figured it out.
I don't know if firing a few bullets into it's going to shut down, but anyway. They
don't have a backup, no backup generator in this area. So
yeah, so they take the power out. That means the gates automatically open. And now I don't think Reacher's theory of, hey, you know what, we've taken out a few of their guys, they're probably probably on attack for us. But
yeah, he comes up with a whole reason to leave because that's his goal, right? He was like, well, I got to get out of here. He's like, hey, they're probably retaliating for us killing some of their guys, this and that. And they're like, oh, okay, well, he said, well, I need to find out what happened with the power. I'll go do that because I'm also an engineer and I can.
You are right, because he does say something about he has about an hour. So it must be closer to where they're at. But again, someone get us a map. Can someone post a link to the map of where the cabin is to this house? Because we have a lot of questions.
There's a lot, and then some people are like, oh, they're nitpicking, but he's so detailed. Reacher's so detailed. Remember, he was like, oh, from the timing, and there's a special bend and stuff. It would have been fantastic if we would have had one of those Indiana Jones moments, when he's traveling and you show the plane flying over the land over a map. I would have loved to see something like that, like see Reacher's car moving on his trip, and see Billy moving.
So when they do it, isn't that National Lampoons where they show the cars going?
Oh yeah, where he's guy falls asleep driving.
So okay,
but
this is where Billy is. Power's out. There's a few other interactions, and basically, Beck tells Paulie, "Hey, you know what? You need to be up there because McCabe's not going to be happy if you're not."
He thinks there's a spot. He thinks there's somebody else because that's what he was saying. He's like, McCabe thinks that we have a mole. There's got to be some. So I need you to go get the maid and the cook and just tear up the room, find something.
That's after Reacher leaves. So after Reacher leaves, Beck is like, McCabe wants this whole place torn apart, and you see everything. And during this, we do see the badge in the pillowcase kind of draped off of the bed. So I'm assuming that it falls down, and that's the reason why. Because we do see one of the pillows getting ripped apart.
Yeah, we see it getting ripped apart, but then again, like there's no power, there's no light, and it could easily got lost. And if you're not looking for something like that, it looks like they were really looking for maybe a cell phone or something, something. So. But this is where it gets fun, right? This is the fun part. This is the fun part. So Reacher meets up with Billy. Billy's like, what's the plan? He said, the plan is we're gonna flip over your car. I was like, what? Flip over my car? Yeah, there's a little slope here. We're gonna flip it over. This is gonna block because he has he's assuming Tank or Shadow, whatever we want to call him. Is speeding on his way over, and so once he sees the car tipped over and Billy, you're going to be in the car, he's going to get out to try to help.
Why is he going to get out to help?
Why do you think this murderer would care?
He just murdered a federal agent, and he's headed back to work for more, for killers, basically to tell them, hey, you know what, this is what happened. But anyway,
So anyway, but it's a wild plan just to say, let's flip this car. It's so he's like, don't worry, I'll do most of the lifting.
90%
just keep
90% of the lifting.
Right, so he's lifting, and then he's like, "Come on, put yourself into it." And then Billy's like, "Oh, I don't know." And he's like, "I bet if there was a bunch of donuts under there, you would do." He's like, "What?" Oh, just to get him angry, he flips the car. There we go, mission accomplished. Car's upside down, turtle style. There we go. He says, "Now you get in. This is it. This is the plan."
Yeah, you're getting in there. and I'm gonna wait here. Now, while Billy is upside down, he's talking to Reacher, who's in the bushes. Now, I have an issue with this, and I mentioned this. They're not even close. They would have to be yelling back and forth. But they make it seem like he's right there. But either way, and then they're talking about the numbers. And he says, well, even if he's coming at 70 miles an hour, when he sees you, he hits the brake. It'll take this long to stop, which, again, how do you know what kind of car it is? Because cars, unless he took the one specific.
Unless he took Steven's
Elliot,
car, maybe there was
maybe had a car though. But either way, then he's saying, but first off, he probably won't be coming over at 70. He'll probably be going slower because the dirt road or the bad road.
And the bend, that was the whole reason why he picked that bend, because he said that's the part where you would have to slow to make that turn. So this is the best possible location.
And then Billy asks him a very simple question of, well, what if he doesn't brake? And he says, well, your pension does transfer over to your wife or to your spouse, right? And this is, I believe, when Billy calls him an asshole.
Yeah, he calls himself, and then poof, car starts racing down. Yep. I mean, but again, this is, and you guys, everyone watching this knows, Reacher says delivers all his lines with a straight face. Like you would think at least a little smirk or something of like, I'm just trying to be funny. He says it's so stern that
that's what's good. When he is trying to make it a joke, he does have a smirk. But half the time, or more than half the time, it's not. I think it's just him being honest. Him just kind of speaking.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's some people are like, well, maybe it wasn't a joke because it is true. It's like, hey, you have everything transferred over to your wife. I mean, I would think so. Line of duty, something could happen. But so enough, that car shows up, and just like as Reacher predicted, this car was racing and then made a screech.
Because that's what I would do.
Right.
I just murdered a federal agent, but you know what? I need to check on this guy that's flipped over in the car.
So he gets out, and then he leans down and looks at him, and that's when Billy, he made some comment. I don't know if I wrote the comment, but he said this is for Elliot.
Yeah, this is for. So he looks like he's dead. And then he notices that he knows who he is, and then his eyes open like the Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says this is for Elliot, and then boom, Reacher.
There we go.
Reacher ends him too. Very anticlimactic. And I don't know why I pronounced climatic that way.
But you know what? There is no other way to go about this. I know what you're saying. I was expecting a fight or something, but I guess the big set piece was flipping over the car. So they were like, all right, well, we got this moment here. We can't have a fight that he was going to run out there. Yeah. You know what? Now I think about it, that probably would have made more sense, because with a shot fired and it's pitch black, it's at night, there's no other cars, traffic. Again, we don't know how far they are from the compound.
Yeah, there are no other cars. So is there one? You know what?
We can go on and on about this. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, the guy's dead. So there we go. We have two goons in the warehouse who don't care about dead, and poor Steven. And now,
remember, he had talked about killing this guy a while back, and they're like, "Well, you're just gonna kill him?" He's like, "Yeah, you know." So for no reason, Elliot lost his life, and then they just killed this guy. There's like no redemption factor other than. It wasn't even Billy that killed him. Maybe if Billy would have done it, I would have been like, okay, he's the one who worked with him. But anyway, they kill him. Now they got to flip the car back over, which.
That was another, a laughable moment. We don't see it happen, but Billy's like, all right, no, well, now what? He's like, well, I'm going to flip the car over. I'll flip it back. Reacher said.
And he says, I'll help you. And he says, I promise the car wouldn't fall on you. I can't promise cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
And this is where Billy calls him once again.
Again, people, leave in the comments if you think this is possible, that a person could just flip over that type of car by themselves. I don't know. I again, got to put disbelief. This dude is RoboCop, so anything is possible. Right. So he shows up. He heads back to the. Wait, I'm trying to remember if he. Let me see in my notes. I think he called. Did he call? Yeah, he called. They called Duffy to tell Duffy that.
Well, he calls Duffy. But Duffy's talking to Elliot's dad.
Oh yes.
And this part bothered me, and I'm a father, so I know you are too.
myself. Yeah. We're parents.
And she's telling Elliot's dad that they were working a cold case. So she is lying about some stuff, which is fine because you really can't say what's going on. And you can hear the dad on the other side. I wish they just would not have even had the dad's voice. But he was just very calm and like wasn't. If someone just called me and told me that my kid was killed, and what a fine agent. I'm not a very emotional person, but I think I would probably be a wreck.
You'd be like, first, like, how did it happen? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Wait, what's going on? I didn't even know he was on an operation, doing special ops. What are you doing? Where are you? Because remember, all this is on the low. She's not supposed to be doing any of this type of stuff. This is her own little project because she's trying to save Teresa. So she pulled in Stephen for who knows what other job he was dealing with the DEA. So Billy went to help out Duffy.
So like hearing his voice, we didn't need to see that. We could have easily just listened to one side. But at the same time, that is not how they notify.
No.
Unless, even if they're far away, they would contact someone. They would contact, the police somewhere that would have to go, notify them. But let's just say she did call again. I think that would have been left. We didn't need to hear all she would have. We had to hear her side of the story. She could stop. I didn't need to hear how he was interacting, it sounded like an automatic response. There was no emotion at all. That bothered me.
It wasn't needed. That part wasn't needed.
And then it's kind of like, oh, I got another phone call. I'll call you back later. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. You just told me that my son is dead. And now you're like, hold on, I got to take this call.
But even says, the father had said, yeah, well, we met before, at this event or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, well, your son was a good officer. That's great. Well, gotta go.
See you at the funeral.
I don't know. I think this is their way again, trying to pull on the heartstrings. If that was the case, they should have put more emotion with this actor or the dad on the phone to oh my dad, just to act. Yes, everybody grieves differently. I get it, but
that's why I said we didn't need to hear his voice.
Yeah, we didn't need that. But we do hear Reacher's voice. Letting Duffy know that this bad dude Tank, he's dead. He's now
it is gone. Tank, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Tank.
Tank or Warner. I don't.
We hear a bunch of different names from him because remember they also just referred to him as a bodyguard a few times. Yeah. Then we said no, he's not. He's the Shadow. That's who he really is. So everybody has like even Elliot. Well, she's calling him his surname Elliot, but they also refer to him as Steven. That's his first name. And when she runs in, she doesn't say Elliot. She starts to him Steven. Yeah. So they should just pick one name, be consistent, that way you don't confuse the viewers.
But you know what? But you're calling her Duffy. I'm calling her Susan.
There you go. We're doing it too. We are guilty as her. Sorry, people. Sorry. All right. So now we get to the good parts. This is all good parts. This was a very strong episode.
This is a very action-packed episode.
Yeah, a lot going on here. So and it's a very creepy, spooky, one of those haunted house vibes because again, there's still no power. Right?
Yeah.
Reacher gets back to the compound. There is a lantern right near the front of the door. So he goes in, he grabs it, and starts walking around. It's just silent, right? We're like, okay, what's going to happen? And the first thing that's going through my mind, I'm sure yours and the viewers out there, is, oh, they're all together and they found the badge, right?
Yes. That's because they showed the badge. So that's the first thing they're going to think.
Yep. So he gets into the office area, and then we see Paulie's there, we see Harley's there, and Beck. And he's like, "Oh, what's going on?" And well, he said this Beck telling Reacher, like, "Well, I found out there was the power breaker took out the whole county, and this is and that. So it's not just us." And he's like, "All right, well, we have this issue here, and this and that, and all these problems are going on here." He tries to dance around the wording of what's going on, pretty much for us to think that they found a badge, and then we see Reacher reach around like he's grabbing something to use.
He grabs the clock. With these three guys there,
and
no one notices that he's grabbing this clock that he might use to protect himself. And the way that Beck is going on, you really have no reason to believe that someone else in that house is an agent. But this is what we find out, that Frenchie, because she's a French maid, technically she's not French. She's from France. She's a maid and she's French.
Oh no! You know what? What if we don't? As we'll get into it. In fact, let's before we go, because maybe that's fake. Maybe she's pulling a fake accent because of what we find out about her. She was undercover in a way. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. Like you see his hand reaching back. There's 6 sets of eyeballs on him. Somebody had to see. I mean, if I was Harley or even Paulie while Beck is talking, like, yo, why are you reaching for the clock? What's going on here?
All right, so quickly, Frenchie, Caitlin McNerney, was born in Washington, D.C., spent her early childhood in Safford Walden, Essex, before moving to Geneva, Switzerland, where she attended schools both French and German.
That is an interesting backstory, a true story. That's fantastic. That's a life.
Yeah.
That's there you go. And then you end up on Reacher.
Yeah. So she could be an agent that just is acting French. She could be like, works out.
Yep, it works out. But they do a lot of close-up shots to Reacher's face. And I'm sure when they were talking with Paulie and all, they're all looking at him trying. I don't know if they were thinking that he was in on it, because that was the other thing I was thinking. It was like, once we do find out, right? And I'll just get to it. Beck says, all right, can you believe that it was the maid? The maid, we found she had a phone and she was reaching out like every few weeks or every 10 days or something like that. And
during
ATF agent.
Yeah, during that, when he says something, that is when Paulie says, well, she's an ATF agent.
Yeah.
And this is where, they're not running drugs. They're guns.
They're guns. Yep. And this, running guns.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No. So then at this point, that's when Reacher was like, well, let me interrogate her. I can do this. I was an MP and the whole thing. And then Paulie was like, well, no, it's a little bit too late for that. And
no, that's what Harley says.
Harley said it. Yeah, Harley
said it. You need a Ouija board if you want to talk to her.
Yeah, you need a Ouija board. And Paulie said, yeah, I just hit her once. You couldn't take it.
Yeah. I wonder why.
Oh, yeah. And Reacher flips out. It's like, how could? And then he was saying some stuff like, oh, what, Reacher, were you sleeping with her? And he's like, no, but she could have gave us valuable information. And I think Beck made a comment. Yeah, that's what I thought. We
that's what Harley said.
Harley said that. Okay.
And we see how small Harley is. Like, he's a very short.
He's shorter than
He's shorter than Beck.
And everyone in the room is shorter than Paulie, because Paulie is a mountain. Including the doors. To see him walk through a door it's a horror movie.
One door, and when we started watching it, he walked through the one door and went like this, and I went, God damn,
yeah. And Reacher's like, you know what? He just gives him a punch to the gut. He punches Paulie.
Yes. So this is
absolutely nothing happens, but it's a quick response. And this is the other thing, if we want to take note, I don't know if it's going to matter later on, but Paulie doesn't even wind up. It's like once he takes the gut, he just swings his arm in front, a punch, and one punch right to the jaw. Reacher drops.
No
wind up on it. I thought it was like a hook shot.
He smacks him the same way that he hit Frenchie, and then he makes some comment about you didn't die or something like that. You lived.
Oh, all right. So he did it Andre the Giant style. It was like, Andre would just smack guys around.
Sure, it was a smack that he just kind of. Now, I will say this: I have seen a couple interviews with Alan Richardson. It is so weird.
Yeah.
And he talked about the stunts with Paulie. I'm not going to break any news. Like, you can tell these guys are going to fight, right? Who else is? And he talks about it. He's like, man, you're really sore because you can't get stuntmen you really can't get a stuntman for him, and you can't really get one for Alan either. So they had to do a lot of their own stunts, and well,
I'm sure I'm looking forward to that fight. I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to that fight, because even after that, this is the first time. If anyone has watched season 1 and 2, we've seen Reacher get attacked and fight and all that stuff and bloodied, but not like this. That was one hit he dropped, and they did a nice close zoom up shot of Reacher's face, and he was stunned. He didn't get knocked out, but he looked like whoa, that I've never been hit that hard.
It did not come off as okay. I got to play it off like he hurt me. he was knocked down.
And he heads back to his room, and he's spitting out a tooth.
Yeah,
he cracked him. He cracked him good.
Well, yeah. So we see that, and then they have to take care of the maid.
Yeah, that's when after Harley was like, "All right, come on, we got to go clean up," and he just keeps yapping about all this just talking about, oh, now I gotta go and put a new want ad and put in credentials, those are like Steve Jobs. I'm like, what?
I'm not Steve Jobs,
right? I'm not Steve Jobs. Yeah, I can't do this.
He's talking about how much Paulie's gonna kill him, eventually. Reacher, like, he can already tell there's tension between them, but he just doesn't shut up.
Nope. And Reacher sees the body of the maid and moves to the head. You
can see her faces, kind of.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So he picks her up, he puts her in a wheelbarrow, and then this guy's still yapping, and Richard just punches him straight in. It was an awesome scene. It's something you could see in a comic book. Just picture one frame of just like the punch to the gut, and the next frame, the guy hunched over and just spitting out blood. It was like,
yeah. And do you remember what Reacher says?
Yeah, now I found your off button or something.
It's like, good, I found your off switch.
Yeah, it's good, I found your off switch. Oh man, that was great. But they still did it, right? I'm pretty sure they didn't cut to that because that's redundant. We already know where they're gonna do it, but he had to do it. At first, I thought maybe this is when he takes out that guy as well.
Well, yeah. They sure get him throwing her in the wheelbarrow again.
Yeah. But to take her off into the cliffside, the dumping grounds. But I don't know, for a moment there before he made that comment, it's like, I found your off switch. I thought maybe he was just going to kill him and dump him in there. And like, that's it. Just get rid of both of them.
So then we see Richard come in, and he's talking to Reacher, and he's telling him, like, you're scared of him. Like, he thinks that he's scared of Paul. I don't think Reacher is scared of Paulie at all. I think he knows that he can kick his ass if he lets him.
Well, he even said he explains it. Just again, he breaks it down. He was like, I wasn't expecting a guy that size to be that fast.
Yeah.
Usually they're a little slower than that, but I'll prepare next time. Like, he already knows. Like, this isn't it for us. We will have another fight.
So I'm trying to think here.
Yep. I think this is the part where now they have to head out, because then that's when Beck tells Reacher, is like, hey, we got to meet with the boss. They want to meet at the Bazaar at the warehouse. Because it goes into the morning. That was it. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's right. Because then after that conversation, Beck comes into the room, and we just see Reacher sitting upright on the bed. The bed's not even unmade. Like, he's just been sitting there all night staring out the window.
Well, I mean, again, if he does, mess up the bed, who's going to clean it? Wait a minute. They turned the house over. They turned the whole place over, so his room should be a mess.
So we have to assume he made the bed.
But he still had blood on his hands. So
yeah. Oh, there we go. Doesn't make sense. Because
Beth says, "Did you even sleep?" And he says, "No." And he's like, "Well, we've been summoned to Bazaar. McCabe wants to meet us." And he's like, "Dude, you have blood." He goes, "You still have the mate's blood. Go clean. I'll meet you down there." Once again, he calls Susan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then this is where it gets interesting, because she was like, "You can't go. This is it." He was like, "Maybe I'll go and I'll try to help you out." And he's like, "For what? Everyone's going to be armed there," because that's when he explains to Duffy, all right, the maid was ATF, so now they're involved in it. That means it's all guns. This explains why the dog. What was his name? He was named after Pfizer. This is why Pfizer couldn't smell anything, because there was no drugs. There was all guns.
They weren't looking for guns.
Yep. So we're getting answers to the overall story of this. This is great.
And this is where they start explaining a couple of things. Like, one of the warehouses was an oil place where you would, so he could get the oil for the guns and everything, so they're fully lubricated, ready to go. And this is where she says, "Hey, you know what? We'll go there if something happens. We'll break in there." He starts saying, "No, you can't do that. These are trained killers with guns. You're not going to last. Teresa this, Teresa that. I'm sick and tired of Teresa." And he's like, Teresa's dead. If they found the agent, they killed her one night, she's dead. And this is where, Duffy obviously gets a little upset with him, which is kind of understandable. Her whole goal is to get this, informant out, and he's just like, but I mean, he's more realistic about it.
Yeah, and what upset me about this conversation is like, this is the moment where you would think Duffy was like, you know what? I'm going to call my boss. We're going to get a whole team because this is a bus now. Now you're going to do the bus. You got the big villain there. You got the guns there. You know where everything is happening. All the heads involved in this are all going to be at the warehouse. This is it. This is when you say, hey, remember I took off some time? This is what I've been working on. By the way, one of my guys is dead. We'll get to that. I called his dad. Everything is cool. But listen, let's get to the warehouse.
It's all smoothing out. We're all good.
Exactly. Don't worry. We're all going to get medals. This is going to be a big bus. He didn't invade.
He didn't sound like his dad liked him. All right.
Who knows? Maybe it wasn't even his dad. She called the wrong number, and the guy.
That's what.
Guy just picked up. Like, all right.
The guy's like, hey, hon, our son's dead. We don't have a son. Yeah, I know, but she seemed real emotional about it.
Exactly. I didn't want to ruin it. I didn't want to ruin it. Let her say her piece, and get out of the system. All right, I got to go to sleep.
But they do talk about like, Richard already has a plan. If he recognizes him, and she's like, he may not even recognize you. They said he had amnesia. And
so let's get on that. Do you think? I think he said he had amnesia, so he wouldn't have to answer questions because of his military background and all stuff. And technically, he was a bad dude. He knows that the government had a file on all his evil doings. So maybe he just said he had amnesia because he left.
Like I said, I didn't even remember that. Like we're just guys watching it. We haven't watched it multiple times. I totally missed the whole amnesia thing.
That was
probably when I was writing something down, and you said no. They mentioned the amnesia, so I really have.
He left the hospital. That's what I remember. It's like he had amnesia. He was in the hospital because somebody found him on the beach because he washed up, and then when they went back to talk to him, he was gone.
All right.
So,
which again, I guess if I was, a murderer, I'd probably
exactly. Yeah, you're not going to stick around for what?
So they can
get police to question.
Some big guy comes after me. I just murdered one of his partners. So.
Can you imagine that? He's laying there. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a government agent." This and that. Because technically, he worked for the government. It's like, "Yeah, we contact your superior over here. Hey, Reacher, come over." It's like, "Oh yeah," and he comes on a pillow. I'm gonna finish the job. Nurse, you could go outside. I gotta fluff this pillow for his head. Just finish the job. But here we go. This is it. He says, you know what? I'm just going to go. I'm going to take my chance. I have to go. I can't not go. I'm the second in command right now. We're back. So, but he does have a weapon. So I'm assuming he picked it up somewhere from one of these guys. Maybe he took it from someone. But anyway, we see him and Beck. They get to the location. Harley's with them as well. Now there's all these people that are in his warehouse. There's guns. Everyone's unpacking and moving things around. That's when you see Reacher has his gun on the backside, and Beck or someone makes a comment. It's like, all right, you ready to meet the big boss? And he's like, yeah, I'm ready.
And Reacher responds, yes, I've been ready for some time now. But the whole time he's like reaching, the same thing with the clock where he's looking for a weapon. He's like reaching in the back, and I'm thinking, these are a bunch of gun runners. No, I'm not a gun runner. I've never hung out with gun runners.
What do you mean? You sure?
I'm assuming that they would be looking to see if someone was going to be reaching in their back, ready to, to pull out, their pistol. Yeah, nobody says anything.
I guess
this is where it ends, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things we could say. Well, maybe because they know Beck is showing up and he's got his own guys. He's a friendly, so why even dwell on staring at them? It's like, oh, Beck is here with his guys. They're gonna see Quinn or McCabe. Yeah, so it's fine because they didn't get searched. That's the other thing. You would think you're walking in, you're gonna meet with the big boss. The big boss usually has security. All right, lift up your arms. Let me see. Make sure you don't go rogue and take out. No, there was none of that. So, and technically, this is still all Beck's business. This is his warehouse. So, and this is it. So, this was all right. So, back to the rating on this. I give this 4.5 out of 5 stars. This was close to near perfect. We had a lot of action. We had story progression, right? So now we know what's happening, at least for Quinn. We saw some deaths. We gruesome deaths. We saw some over the top, just like that crazy swim. We just saw Reacher flip over a car twice, right? He flipped it upside down.
Well, we only saw him flip
camera.
it over once.
Exactly, but well, he had to, because if not, when they drive off from the compound, they'll be like, "Hey, what's that car in the road?" Because remember, there's only one road in and out.
I just want to say, if you've ever been in a gym and you've done the tire flipping, those things are heavy.
Yeah,
there's nothing to really grab onto, and they're not nearly as heavy as a car. Yet, for this guy to flip over a car either way. Again, I guess we have to say you got to think he's superhuman, kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger at the beginning of Commando, where he's walking around with a tree.
Or Arnold's most of his movies in the 80s. He was always pulling. Remember carrying a Commando, with the tree stump. Remember the whole
the chainsaw on the tree.
Yeah, the chainsaw on the tree. I was like, yes, that's me. That's what I want to do. I remember telling my mom, I'm eating my spinach. I was like, Popeye, I need to be like Arnold.
And he flips a car in Commando also.
This is it. I'm telling you, it's all callbacks. Arnold needs to show up. He needs to show up in one of these, and then it'll all make sense.
No, I would give it a 4, and the only reason why I went to a 4.5 or even a 5 is that you can always get better. So we've seen how the other series or how the other seasons have gone. So yeah, again, I'm hoping for better, just because, not that I don't think this is good, but I'm enjoying it. And once again, we're nitpicking. So people are like, how you're nitpicking? How can you think that it can get better? Well, I think anything can get better. And you always want a little more, right? I mean, I'm a toy collector, and they just had Toy Fair with all these new G.I. Joes, and I want more. I want more and more and more. All right.
I want dates. That's what I want. You want more? I want dates for these. And pricing. Dates and pricing. Well,
this will be in the past when this airs. But March 4th, the Firefighter, the Retro Viper, Retro Televiper, Retro Flint, and Retro Cover Girl go on pre-order.
All right.
Again, none of you care because you're like,
right? Exactly. They're like, what are they talking about? Retro what? What the hell is this? I'm sure some of you know, and if you do know and you're a collector, go check out this man's channel. So let's just bring some of that over there. But yeah, this is great. So that was the end of this episode. We gave our score. What's your score, people? What do you think? How are you feeling about this season? Hell, did you even watch season 1 and 2? Because you really didn't need to. Each season is a standalone. So we're just curious to know where you guys stand, guys and gals. So thanks again for.
I want to say something. We talked that episode 2 was very slow going, and I said it felt like there's a lot of storytelling, and I think that's what we got. That episode 2 was like, this is the buildup. Here is the story. This is what you're going to get. Episode 3 got a little bit better. 4, I think everyone will agree, got way better. I think by our numbers, people got more into it. And this one has probably been the best one by far.
Yeah. It's been getting better and better, which is what you would want on the show, because no one wants that first episode, and then 2 and 3, you're just, I don't remember what happened.
How many TV shows have we seen where it's like, wow, this thing just starts off awesome, and then now you're committed, but as it goes on, you're like, this is drawn out. I don't really care. I'm not invested, other than that first episode or 2 that I feel like I have to finish watching it. I don't get the same vibe from this at all.
Or the worst is when they do the first episode, it's great, and then everything is filled with a slow build-up, and then they do the big payoff at the end of like episode 10. It's like, man, I had to watch all these episodes just to get to this point. Come on now.
One can just be a TV movie for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the first episode and second episode. Again, totally off topic. If you ever watched the TV show The Shield, I absolutely love The Shield. Greatest TV show, or greatest police show ever. The first episode sets up the entire 7 seasons of that. All right. And I like that. I like the storytelling, and I think that's what we're getting with this.
Yeah, this was good. It was good. So again, thanks for sticking around, and thanks for listening to us talk about this show. like, subscribe, follow, support. You guys are great. Everyone's jumping in. This is fantastic. And we will be back for episode 6 next week, everybody. So peace.
Take care.